My name is Skylar, and I am 22 years old, a college student who has always been proud of being a virgin. I have been best friends with Madison since childhood, and I practically grew up at her house, so I know her younger sister Jasmine, who is 19, really well. We have always had a normal, friendly relationship, nothing more than casual hellos and small talk when I visit. That is why I was completely shocked when Jasmine showed up at my dorm room on a Tuesday morning, looking absolutely panicked and saying we needed to talk about what happened at the party. I had no idea what she was referring to because the party she mentioned was 3 weeks ago, and I only stayed for 2 hours before leaving early, since I do not drink alcohol and felt out of place. Before I tell you how this nightmare unfolded and completely turned my world upside down, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button, because this story gets absolutely wild, and you will not want to miss what happens next when everything I thought I knew about trust and friendship gets shattered. I stared at Jasmine standing in my doorway, her face flushed and her hands shaking as she pushed past me into my small dorm room. She turned to face me with this intense look in her eyes that I had never seen before, and I immediately knew something was seriously wrong. She took a deep breath and said the words that would change everything between us forever. She told me she was pregnant 6 weeks along and that I had helped cover for some mystery guy at Tyler's party 3 weeks ago. According to her, I had created alibis and distracted people, so this unknown guy could spend private time with her. I felt my stomach drop because I had absolutely no memory of doing anything like that. In fact, I barely remembered the party at all except for feeling awkward and leaving early. I tried to think back to that night, replaying every moment I could remember. Madison and I had planned to go together, but she came down with terrible food poisoning that afternoon and could barely get out of bed. I almost stayed home with her, but she insisted I go and have fun without her. So I drove to Tyler's house alone, which already made me nervous because I did not know most of the people who would be there. The party was in full swing when I arrived around 8 p.m., with music blasting and people everywhere. I felt completely out of my element without Madison there to anchor me. I remember spending most of my time in the kitchen, trying to stay out of the way of all the drinking games and loud conversations happening throughout the house. Jasmine arrived much later with her own group of friends, and I only saw her briefly when she waved hello from across the room. I distinctly remember feeling overwhelmed by all the noise and chaos, so I decided to leave around 10 p.m. The most interaction I had with anyone was when I asked some random guy near the staircase where the bathroom was, and even that conversation lasted maybe 2 minutes. There was absolutely nothing about helping anyone create alibis or distract people for secret meetings. But Jasmine was becoming increasingly frantic as she insisted I had to remember. She pulled out her phone and started showing me photos from that night that people had posted on social media. In several of the pictures, I could see myself in the background, usually standing alone or looking generally uncomfortable. Then she pointed to one specific photo where I was talking to that guy near the stairs. She claimed the conversation was the signal I gave him to let him know it was safe to approach her upstairs. I felt my head spinning because I knew for certain that I had only asked him for directions to the bathroom, nothing more. But Jasmine was absolutely convinced that I was lying or blocking out the memory somehow. That is when I decided to call Madison, hoping she could help clarify things, or at least provide some perspective. Madison answered on the second ring, and I quickly explained what Jasmine was claiming. At first, Madison was completely supportive and said there was no way I would have done something like that without remembering it. But then Madison mentioned something that made my blood run cold. She said that Jasmine had been grounded by their parents recently and desperately needed someone else to blame for her current situation. She also revealed that their parents were extremely strict and would probably disown Jasmine if they found out the whole truth about her pregnancy. The conversation took an even worse turn when Madison suggested that maybe I had forgotten some details because I was stressed that night about going to the party alone. Hearing doubt creep into even Madison's voice made me feel like the ground was disappearing beneath my feet. If my best friend since childhood was starting to question my memory, how could I convince anyone else that I was telling the truth? Within 24 hours of that conversation with Jasmine, everything in my life started falling apart at an alarming rate. Jasmine had gone home and told her parents that I had orchestrated the entire situation that led to her pregnancy. When her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez, called my parents demanding an immediate meeting, I knew this was spiraling completely out of control. My parents were confused, but agreed to meet with the Rodriguez family at their house that evening. I sat in their formal living room feeling smaller and smaller as Jasmine elaborated on her story about how I had planned everything. She claimed that I had introduced her to the mystery guy weeks before the party, that I had arranged private meeting spots for them, and that I had been helping coordinate their secret relationship for months. The way she told it, I was some kind of mastermind who had been facilitating her relationship behind everyone's backs. I kept interrupting to say that none of this was true, but every time I spoke up, Jasmine would start crying and say I was destroying her life by lying. Her parents looked at me with such disappointment and anger that I felt sick to my stomach. But the worst part came when Jasmine pulled out her phone and showed everyone text message screenshots that allegedly came from my phone number. The messages contained things like, "Do not worry, I will make sure no one notices when he comes upstairs," and "I have got your back, just be careful." Reading those messages felt like being punched in the chest because I knew with absolute certainty that I had never sent them. I immediately pulled out my own phone to check my message history, but there was no record of any of those conversations. When I told everyone that these messages did not exist on my phone, Jasmine broke down sobbing and accused me of deleting them to cover my tracks. Her parents demanded to know why she would make up something this serious, and honestly, I could not provide a good answer to that question. My own parents started looking at me differently with questions in their eyes that cut deeper than any accusation from strangers could have. They asked me privately if there was any possibility that I had sent those messages and somehow forgotten about it. The fact that even they were starting to doubt me made me feel completely alone in the world. The situation got even worse when word started spreading around campus about what was happening. College is a small community, and gossip travels fast, especially when it involves pregnancy and secret relationships. Suddenly, classmates who had never paid attention to me before were whispering when I walked by and giving me strange looks during lectures. Some people started speculating that I was lying about being a virgin and was actually much more sexually active than I let on. Others thought I was a manipulative friend who helped guys take advantage of innocent girls. My carefully maintained reputation as a quiet, studious person was crumbling before my eyes, and there seemed to be nothing I could do to stop it. Even professors and academic advisors started asking me subtle questions about my personal life and whether everything was okay at home. I realized that rumors about my alleged involvement in Jasmine's pregnancy were affecting how people viewed my character and integrity. For someone who had always prided herself on being honest and trustworthy, watching people doubt my word was absolutely devastating. Madison started becoming distant, which hurt more than anything else that was happening. She would respond to my texts hours later with short, non-committal answers, and she stopped inviting me to hang out like we used to do several times a week. When I confronted her about pulling away, she said she needed time to process everything that was happening and figure out what she believed. The pressure was building from every direction, and I felt like I was drowning in accusations and suspicion. Jasmine's parents continued demanding that I reveal the identity of the father, which I genuinely could not do, because I had never helped anyone in the way they described. The more I insisted I did not know, the more convinced everyone became that I was protecting someone because I was romantically involved with him myself. 7 days after this nightmare began, Jasmine's family delivered an ultimatum that made me realize just how serious this situation had become. They gave me exactly 48 hours to confess the complete truth about my involvement, or they would file a formal complaint with the college administration. The potential consequences they outlined included academic probation, social suspension, and a permanent mark on my student record that could affect my future career prospects. My parents sat me down that evening and begged me to just tell them if I knew something, anything that could help resolve this situation. The desperation in their voices broke my heart because I could see how much stress this was causing our entire family. Even Madison finally called me and said maybe it would be easier for everyone if I admitted to some small involvement and helped them move forward. Hearing my best friend suggest that I should lie and take partial blame for something I did not do was the moment I realized that absolutely no one believed me anymore. I felt like I was living in an alternate reality, where everything I knew about myself and my relationships had been turned upside down. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling and wondering if I was losing my mind or if everyone around me had lost theirs. But instead of giving up and accepting blame for something I did not do, I decided to investigate the situation myself. The next morning, I drove back to Tyler's house and asked him if he had any security cameras that might have recorded the party. At first, he was hesitant to help because he did not want to get involved in drama, but when I explained that my entire future was at stake, he agreed to check the footage. What we found on that security camera changed everything. The timestamp clearly showed me leaving the party at exactly 10:07 p.m., which was consistent with what I had been saying all along. More importantly, the camera captured Jasmine arriving at the party around 10:30 p.m. with a guy I had never seen before. His name was Derek, and Tyler immediately recognized him as someone who had been hanging around Jasmine for months. The footage showed Derek and Jasmine being very intimate with each other, holding hands and kissing before they disappeared upstairs together. They spent over 3 hours in one of the bedrooms, and Derek did not leave until almost 2 a.m., long after I had gone home. Tyler explained that Derek was 21 years old, a college dropout with a history of getting into trouble, and that he had been dating Jasmine secretly because her parents would never approve of him. Tyler revealed even more disturbing information about Derek that made the whole situation make sense. Derek already had a baby with another girl from a neighboring town, but he had never paid any child support and had completely abandoned that relationship. He had multiple DUI charges on his record and a reputation for disappearing whenever things got serious with girlfriends. According to Tyler, Derek had actually threatened him not to mention anything about seeing them together that night. Derek knew that if Jasmine's strict parents found out she was dating someone like him, there would be serious consequences for both of them. When Jasmine discovered she was pregnant, and Derek immediately vanished without a trace, she panicked and needed to find someone else to blame. Tyler explained that Derek had probably coached Jasmine on what to say and how to create fake evidence to frame someone else. Jasmine had chosen me as the perfect scapegoat because I was known as the innocent, trustworthy friend who would never be suspected of helping facilitate something inappropriate. The plan was to make me take the blame temporarily while she figured out how to track Derek down and force him to take responsibility. When I confronted Jasmine with this evidence, she completely broke down and admitted everything. Through her tears, she explained that her family would disown her if they knew she had been secretly dating someone like Derek for months. She said Derek had promised he would take responsibility for the pregnancy, but then he disappeared and blocked her on all social media platforms. She begged me to understand that she never meant for the situation to go as far as it did, and that she had only needed time to locate Derek and convince him to do the right thing. She showed me the app she had used to spoof text messages from my phone number, creating fake evidence to support her story. The whole elaborate plan had been designed to buy her time, but it had spiraled completely out of control when her parents demanded immediate answers. Despite feeling sorry for Jasmine's difficult situation, I knew I could not sacrifice my own reputation and future to protect her from the consequences of her choices. I told her firmly that I would not continue being her scapegoat and that she needed to tell everyone the truth immediately. When she begged me to reconsider and give her more time to find Derek, I made it clear that my decision was final. I demanded a meeting with all the parents involved, including my own, where I would present the security footage evidence and Tyler's testimony about what really happened that night. Jasmine tried to talk me out of it, promising that she would find a way to fix everything without involving our families. But I had already lost too much trust and credibility to take any more risks. The meeting took place at the Rodriguez house the following evening, and I brought Tyler with me as a witness along with a laptop containing the security footage. When I played the video showing Derek and Jasmine's intimate relationship and the timestamps proving I had left hours before their encounter, the room fell completely silent. Jasmine's parents were shocked and devastated to learn that their daughter had been lying to them for weeks while dating someone they would never have approved of. They apologized profusely to me and my parents for putting us through such a terrible ordeal based on completely false accusations. Mr. Rodriguez was especially emotional as he realized how close they had come to destroying an innocent person's reputation. My own parents were relieved to finally understand what had really happened, but they were also deeply apologetic for doubting my word during such a difficult time. My mother cried as she hugged me and said she should have trusted my character more than circumstantial evidence. Their lack of faith in me had been one of the most painful parts of this entire experience. Jasmine was forced to admit the complete truth about her relationship with Derek, including his criminal history and the fact that he had abandoned her when she told him about the pregnancy. Her parents were heartbroken, but determined to help her figure out the next steps, including pursuing Derek through legal channels to establish paternity and child support obligations. The college administration was notified about the false accusations and the manufactured evidence, and they issued a formal apology to me for the stress and disruption this situation had caused to my academic life. Jasmine faced temporary suspension for filing false reports and creating fraudulent evidence which would remain on her student record. Madison came to my dorm room the day after. The truth came out crying and apologizing for doubting me when I needed her support the most. She explained that the pressure from her family and the seemingly convincing evidence had made her question what she knew about my character. Our friendship took time to rebuild, but eventually we were able to move past this betrayal and establish stronger boundaries with her family. The campus community gradually learned the truth about what had happened, and my reputation was fully restored among classmates and faculty members. Some people even approached me to apologize for believing rumors, without knowing the facts, which helped me regain confidence in my social relationships. But the healing process took much longer than simply clearing my name publicly. For months afterward, I struggled with trust issues and found myself constantly second-guessing whether people really believed me or were just being polite. The experience had shaken my faith in the people closest to me and made me realize how quickly a reputation could be destroyed by false accusations. I decided to join a campus support group for students who had been falsely accused of various things from academic dishonesty to inappropriate conduct. Talking with others who understood the psychological impact of being wrongly blamed helped me process my emotions and develop coping strategies for moving forward. Through therapy and support groups, I learned how to advocate for myself more effectively and stand up for the truth even when it seemed like everyone was against me. I discovered inner strength I never knew I possessed and developed a clearer sense of my own values and boundaries. I threw myself into my academic work with renewed focus and determination, graduating with honors 2 years later. The experience taught me that my integrity and character were worth fighting for, even when it meant standing alone against popular opinion and family pressure. During my senior year, I received an unexpected message from Jasmine, thanking me for not enabling her lies and helping her face the consequences of her actions. She had eventually tracked down Derek through social services, and he was now paying court-ordered child support for their daughter. She said that being forced to deal with reality, instead of hiding behind fabricated stories, had ultimately made her a stronger person and better mother. Looking back on that terrible period 3 years later, I am actually grateful for the experience, despite how painful it was at the time. It taught me to trust my own memory and instincts, even when external pressure makes me doubt myself. I learned that real friends will believe in your character, even when the evidence seems confusing or contradictory. The situation also showed me that sometimes the hardest part about growing up is learning that not everyone has your best interests at heart, even when they should. Family relationships and long-term friendships do not automatically guarantee loyalty or support during difficult times, and sometimes you have to fight for your own reputation without anyone in your corner. Most importantly, I discovered that truth has a way of surfacing when you refuse to give up fighting for it. No matter how convincing false evidence might appear, Or how many people seem to believe lies about you? Persistence and determination can eventually reveal what really happened. Your integrity and good name are sometimes all you truly own in this world, and they are worth defending no matter what the cost might be in terms of relationships or temporary comfort. I would rather stand alone with the truth than compromise my principles for the sake of keeping peace with people who do not really know or trust me. Have you ever been falsely accused of something serious and had to fight to clear your name? How did you handle the situation when people you trusted started doubting your word? Drop a comment below sharing your experience, because I know many of you have faced similar challenges, and your stories might help someone else going through this right now. If this video helped you feel less alone in your own struggles, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life stories about overcoming difficult situations. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that. Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself, even when it feels like the whole world is against you. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that your truth is worth fighting for, no matter how hard that fight might be. I wish you all the strength and courage you need to face whatever challenges come your way.